It's the International Soccer Preview. We are Soccerphiles Canada. Welcome to Series 31, looking at the players of the 2025 African Cup. This episode is looking at the players of Sudan. Part 2, the selection. Here we go. Hello and welcome to the International Soccer Preview by Soccerphiles Canada. I'm Kevin and this is a continuation of Series 31 on the players of the 2025 African Cup. This episode is part 2 of our coverage of Sudan's players. The final roster is released and we're looking at the selections of Sudan. In part 1, we compiled a list on the players and their likelihood of reaching the final squad. That was based mostly on their participation from March 2024 up until the conclusion of World Cup qualification in October 2025. And in addition to participation, we considered a few other factors as well. We also gave some biographical and career information on the main players to help you to get to know them better. In part 2 here, our focus is on the selections, especially the final selections. Before we move on, we want to let you know that in the springtime of 2026, probably April, we will start producing episodes for the massive 2026 World Cup, which takes place in, of course, the summer of 2026. So keep an eye out for that, or better yet, subscribe to the channel and it'll notify you when the episodes come out. Okay, this mediacast is divided into 3 sections, just like part 1. And like part 1, we begin with section 1, which is some team information. So a little less information than in part 1, but some important prequel information going into section 2, which is the main part of the media cast. In section 2, we review the list that we compiled in part 1 there. We will tell you who made the preliminary and final squad, and we also tried to predict starters. So we did take some steps towards that in part 1 by providing a narrative of each position over the period. Here we'll summarize that narrative basically by letting you know who we thought the starters would be after part 1. We didn't actually talk about that in part 1, but we did make notes on it. Then we'll examine the lineup in games played after October 2025 to see if they give us any further insight as to who will start. And finally, we'll revise our predictions on the starters there. In section 3, we do some summaries, but important summaries there. We're going to start with our spotlight review. That's a quick run through the main players who made and didn't make the squad and our predicted starters. And we'll also review which selections were surprises and non-selections, as well as new players making the final squad. Excuse me a second. All right, sorry, and we'll also update on injuries in section 3. So let's jump right into section 1 and some information on the team. So in part 1, we looked at club affiliations of the players, the games they played over the recent period, and their preferred formations. Here, though, we're going to focus on what the team published. So teams were required to submit a preliminary roster of up to 55 players to CAF, the organizers of the tournament, kind of Africa's version of FIFA there. Back in 2023, or for the previous Cup, CAF published those lists, so that made it easy for us. They didn't make it easy on us this time. Some teams didn't like the whole roster being published, feeling that it had some negative effects. So this time it was up to the teams as to whether they published or not. I had to go to Google's AI, Gemini, to get the 55-man roster. And wow, I had a tough time with Sudan there because a lot of players are known by 2, perhaps even 3 different names. So Gemini had to do a lot of discussion, Gemini and I, to come up with the final squad. And actually, in the process of doing it, I'm a bit doubtful about its sourcing and accuracy. here. Really, though, that was just in a few of the preliminary squad players. Overall, I think the rosters are fairly accurate. At the risk of a few mistakes, we are going to use the information that we ended up with here. But I can assure you that the final rosters, on the other hand, are very accurate. So teams are allowed to bring 28 players to the tournament. And there are 28 players on Sudan's roster. And from a list of 55, might actually been a little less than that. I'm not sure we did get all the names there. Anyway, that means they would have to cut about half of the players to arrive at their final roster. And before we move on to section 2 to see who those players were, let's take a look at the games played after October 2025. Well, there's quite a few of them for Sudan here. Most teams played 2 friendlies in November, and so did Sudan. They played on November 14th against Oman, Oman's senior team there. They lost 2-0 in that game. And then they played the under-23 Oman team. And, that should be in blue because they tied 0-0 there. Against Oman's under-23 team. That wasn't it for November, though. Sudan had a qualifier for the Arab Cup. They had to play off against Lebanon on November 26th there in order to reach the Arab Cup, which began at the beginning of December. Well, they did play Lebanon, and they won that game, which meant they gained entry into the Arab Cup. And they played 3 games in early December 3rd, 6th, and 9th. And, they tied Algeria in the first. That was a good result, but lost to Iraq and Bahrain in the second and third game. Truthfully, though, we're not interested in the results of these games. We're really just interested in the lineups. And Sudan is unique in that they brought many of the same players to the Arab Cup that they're going to bring to the African Cup here. So honestly, it maybe confuses us more than it helps us, because some of the players that are named to the African Cup weren't on the Arab Cup squad, although most of them were. But then we're not sure if they're using their A team for both tournaments. Perhaps in the Arab Cup lineups, we're looking at a B team, or in a few positions at least, we're looking at kind of the B player. And we really couldn't determine that after going through all the players. We're still not sure. So we have quite a bit of doubt about who's going to be in which positions. That is not helped by the fact that the players shift position quite a bit in Sudan. And I think we did overcome the name problem. Players going by different names on different sources. I think we overcame that one, but I got to say we're not dead sure in our predictions here because it is confusing information. Okay, that's it for section 1. We're going to try our best anyway to predict the starters. Let's move on to the main part of the media cast here and the candidates. And so we begin with the manager, James Kwesi Appiah. He's a Ghanaian manager and has been with the team since 2023. So basically, through the whole period we looked at, James Kwesi Appiah was in charge, and he got them to this 2025 African Cup, which is good for Sudan. And he continues, so not fired or anything before the tournament. We will consider him a definite candidate here. Okay, let us move on to goalkeepers. And here we had no candidates at the definite or likely level. We'll tell you why that is shortly. But we had 5 candidates at the possible level. So the first one is Monjed El Nil. And again, you may hear these players by different names. For example, Munjed Al Nil, in this case, is at least close to the name. It's not completely different. Anyway, Munjed Al Nil selected for the final squad. Next, we have Mohamed Abuja. He was also selected for the squad. and he may go by Mohammed El Noor. Or Mohammed El Noor Adam Saeed, kind of any one of those names, really. But mostly Abuja is what I use. Our next candidate, Mohammed Mustafa, just making the preliminary squad. A bit of a sad story there, which we'll cover when we get to our predictions. After him, we have Ali Abu Eshrain, who was selected for the final squad. And finally, Adam Abdallah, just selected for the preliminary squad. Possible but unlikely candidate, Ahmad Al Fatih, just making the preliminary squad there. And seemingly off the squad player, Akram El Hadi Salim, does seem to be off the squad, as he was not selected even for the preliminary squad. We have two new candidates making the preliminary squad. Neither of them made the final cut there. The first one is Mohammed Madani. He's just 20 years old, so perhaps a name for the future. And the second one, Mohammed Al-Andalus, making the preliminary squad there. He actually is one of the three keepers who made the Arab Cup squad, and Al-Andalus. Anyway, we have three keepers here then for the African Cup. Munjed Al Nil, Mohammed Abuja, and Ali Abu Eshrain. Those are our candidates. Let's look at the predictions at the end of part one. We had, well, I'll just tell you that the sad story I referred to was Mohammed Mustafa, who was the starting keeper, was abruptly off the team after March of 2025. We don't know why. Muhammad Abuja started the first fall 2025 game, but Munjed El Nil started the last three of those October games. So that made us feel that El Nil was the likely starter and Abuja was the possible starter. When we look at the November games, El Nil started the friendly there against Oman, but it was Abuja who started the Arab Cup qualifier, probably the more important of the games. And both of them were on the Arab Cup squad. Abuja started all three games in that tournament. And this is going to be the case all the way through. We don't know if that suggests he's the starter or whether Abuja starts the Arab Cup and Al Nil starts the African Cup, kind of sharing the starting position between the tournaments. So anyway, we are going to revise our pick from favouring Munjed El Nil to having them both at an equal level, both possible starters. So Munjed El Nil and Mohammed Abuja, we're both going to give 1 star. 1 star after the name we're using to indicate that it's a possible starter. And 2 stars would be a likely starter, 3 stars, a definite starter. I think we only have one of those for Sudan's squad here. All right, that's it for goalkeepers. We're going to move on to the defense and begin with central defenders here. Let's look at the candidates then. Again, no one at the definite level. And at the likely level, we have 3 candidates. The first one, Mohammed Ehring, was selected for the squad. He may be known as Mohammed Ahmed Saeed as well. We're going with Mohammed Ehring. The second candidate, Mustafa Karshoon, thankfully doesn't change his name much. He usually is known as Karshoon. And our third likely candidate, Abdel Rahman Kuku, was only selected for the preliminary squad. So there's our first surprise. We thought he would be a likely candidate to make the squad, but he didn't. And the reason he didn't largely is because he was without a club since August of 2025. So he left Al Ali in Libya there in the summertime and hasn't found another club. So Abdel Rahman Kuku left off the squad there. We have 4 candidates at the possible level. The first one is Imad Al-Sini, just making the preliminary squad there. The second one, Al Tayeb Abaka, He was selected for the final squad, and you may hear him referred to as El Taib Abdelrazak as well. We're going to go with the name that we have on the screen here, Al Tayyab Abakar, but it differs from website to website. Next, we have Mohamed Musa. He just made the preliminary squad, but our fourth possible candidate, Mohamed Kesra, did make the final squad, and I think he is usually known as Kesra or a variation of it, Kasri, Mohamed Kasri, you may hear. Possible but unlikely candidate, Amir Kamal, was selected for the preliminary squad but didn't make the final cut. And seemingly off the squad, Salah Nemer, not even making the preliminary squad there. We do have one new candidate, Jamal Ali, but he just made the preliminary squad. So that leaves us with four candidates for central defence, a little bit thin. Usually there's 5 or 6. It's Mohamed Ehring, Mustafa Karshoum, Altayeb Abakar, and Mohamed Kesra. Let's see what we thought at the end of part 1. We thought Mustafa Karshoum would be a likely starter, and Mohamed Ehring and Altayeb Abakar would be possible starters. Going back a little bit here, actually, Mohamed Ehring, Mustafa Karshoum, and the player who didn't make the squad, Abdelrahman Kuku, they were the 3 main players up until October 2025. So we thought things were pretty stable there. In the October games, Karshoum did start the first, but otherwise it was new names coming in. It was Altayeb Abakar. He was returning from an absence, and he started both in October there. Kuku hadn't actually played towards the end there, so we basically replaced Abakar. We replaced Kuku with Abakar, leaving us with Karshoum, Ehring, and Abakar at the end of part 1. Abakar also started the first November friendly, but in the second, in the playoff game, which we consider more telling, more important, it was Karshoum and Ehring in a pairing there. So kind of what we would expect. Those two also started all 3 Arab Cup games as well. Basically, we move Ehring up to a likely starter. Again, we have some doubts that this will actually represent the African Cup starters, or is it just a B team? But anyway, after this, we go forward with these predictions. Karshoum and Ehring as likely starters, and then Altayeb Abakar as a possible starter. But again, if that's a B team, then we'll get the rug pulled from under us with those predictions. Anyway, that's the best we can do. Let's move on to left backs. And we begin with the captain of the team, Bakit Kamas, at the definite level, and he was selected for the final squad. And next we have Ahmed Tabanja, and he was also selected for the final squad. He may be listed as Ahmed Yusuf, but actually Tabanja and Kamis usually are listed that way, or something like that. They may be a different spelling. Those two made it. Our possible but unlikely candidate, Simbo, that's Mazen Bashir Simbo, just making the preliminary squad there. I think he started the November friendly, but didn't make the final cut. Instead, we have a new player coming in, new in the sense that he wasn't on our list. He's not new to Sudan. He wasn't on our list because he hasn't played in 2024 onwards, so we left him off the list. We did have him in our files though, because he was part of the 2021 African Cup, and it is Mazin Mohamedine, and he was selected for the final squad, so we will introduce him. But first, we'll just tell you the other new player on the preliminary squad was Faris Abdallah, but he didn't make the final cut there. So let's look at Mazin Mohammedin, because we said we would look at players added. And he's only actually 25 years old, with 16 caps for the national team. He played from 2021, but last appeared in March of 2023. That's why we didn't have him on the list. He plays in Libya, as many of the Sudan players do. And as I said, he was part of the 2021 African Cup. What I didn't say is that he was a starter there, started and finished all games as a left back in that tournament. But was off the team shortly after in March of 2023, but here he is called back in, and we're not really sure what role he's going to play, to be honest, but good to have as a backup player, it would seem. Let's go to our predictions then after part one. Pretty straightforward here. We felt Baki Kamis was a likely starter and Ahmed Tabanja a possible starter. Baki Kama started the November friendly and the playoff game at the end of November, but in the cup itself, the Arab Cup, it was Ahmed Tabanja starting all three games. So again, it confuses us a bit. We don't know if that's kind of a B team or giving the B player a chance to get on the field there. Whether that's going to be the way it is in the African Cup. But we're not sure, but we are going to change our prediction and put them both as possible starters, Baki Kamis and Ahmed Tabanja. Mazin Mohammedin didn't show up on the field there, but he seemed to be an experienced enough player that he actually might be in the fray as well. But we have no kind of suggestion that he will be. Okay, in terms of his participation, let's move on to right backs, and we have two. We have no definite candidate here either. We have two candidates at the likely level. The first one is Awad Zaid. Really, he does go by that name. No, he, does go by that name, but it may be spelled differently than what you see on the screen. Different spellings for a lot of these players. Anyway, Zaid was selected for the final squad, and so was Yasser Awad, or Yasser Awad Boshara. I'm giving you both versions of his name that I've seen. In fact, most sources have Yasser Awad. I just used Bashara to make it a bit more clear. He was selected for the final squad as well. Our candidate at the possible level, though, Ramadan Ajeb, not selected for the final squad, just making the preliminary squad there. And we won't do names for players that didn't, alternative names for players that didn't make the squad there. Here too, though, we have a new player actually making the final cut, and it is Shedi Barglan. And that's the only one. Shedi Barglan was selected for the final squad there, so I will introduce him here. He has been with the national team since 2023, just 2 caps though for them, and he's 23 years old. He was born in the Netherlands actually, and plays for Den Bosch in the Netherlands, and earned his first cap in October 2023, so just before the period we looked at began. He didn't start any of their 14 games over the period we looked at, but he was subbed in for the first one, on the bench for the next 5, and not selected for the other 8 matches. So I'm not actually sure where he's getting his second cap there. It may just be 1 cap, or it may have been earned in something like the African National Championship. No, well, he wouldn't be allowed to play in that. Anyway, may have been earned somewhere else along the line. Okay, Shedi Barglan then, selected for the final squad. Barglan, I should say, Barglan. And let's look at the predictions we had over here. Well, we had both of them, Yasser Awad Bashara and Awad Zaid, as possible starters here. And a bit like the goalkeeper we saw, in that section. Ramadan Ajab here started all games to March 2025, but now is not even selected for the final squad. So they do make abrupt changes, Sudan. They really did before the 2021 African Cup, kind of changed more than half of the squad with young players. It didn't work that well for them. But here we see kind of a lot of changes towards the end in 2025 there. Anyway, with Ajab out of the picture, Awad Zaid started the first friendly. Oh, I'm jumping on to the... anyway, so Boshara and Zaid were the possible starters after October 2025. I just didn't write anything down here, but that's where we landed. Now we look at the November games. It was Awad Zaid starting the first friendly, but Yasser Awad Boshara the second. And then Boshara also started all three Arab Cup games. I must say there's a bit of confusion there because Boshara sometimes does start as a left attacking midfielder, but I have a couple of times I found that to be a mistake in the information, and a couple of times it actually seemed to be the case because I had it on a few sources. So again, one of the things that makes it a bit confusing. So maybe that Boshara does start, but as a left attacking midfielder instead of a right back here. Anyway, Boshara starting all three Arab Cup games. Again, we're not sure if the Arab Cup represents what we'll see in the African Cup there. So we're going to keep the predictions the way they are, but we probably do favour Boshara a little bit there. But we'll give 1 star to Yasser Awad Boshara as a possible candidate here, and then Awad Zaid also 1 star as a possible starter. Okay, there we go. Let's move on upfield then to the defensive midfielders, the defensive end of the midfield. And we'll start with players coded as defensive midfielders, even though we'll do defensive and central midfielders in one gulp when we get to talking about the predictions. So here we have no definite candidate, but we had a likely candidate in Salah Adel. Salah Adel. Maybe that may be one name, or it may be Salah Eldin Adil. A few different variations there. Anyway, he was selected for the final squad, and we had 3 possible candidates. The first one is Abu Agla Abdallah. Abu Agla Abdallah may be listed as Mohammed Abu Agla there, and he was selected for the final squad. The second one, Amar Tayfour, also selected for the final squad, but our third possible candidate, Mohammed Al Rashid, not making the cut there, just selected for the preliminary squad. We have 2 candidates also to add to the list that we found on the preliminary squad. The first one was Musab Kurdman, just making the preliminary squad there. And the second one, Suleiman Zakaria, actually played in the 2021 African Cup there, but just making the preliminary squad here. Okay, those are the candidates. So we're left with 3, Salah Adel, Abu Agla Abdallah, and Amar Tayfour. Let's look at the central midfielders, 2. And actually, we only have 1 on our list here. It's at the likely level, and it's Wali Aldin Kadir. And there may be all sorts of variations of his name, especially in the spelling of Kadir at the end there. Anyway, he is a likely candidate, and he was selected as we expected. So there we go. We have a couple of new candidates to introduce, but none of them made the final squad. There's actually 3 of them. The first one, Waji Abdallah, making the preliminary squad. Then we have Mustafa Naji, and finally Mudathir Yahya. all three of those just making the preliminary squad. So added to our three defensive midfielders then, we have Wally Eldin Kadir, and let us go to the predictions here. Well, this becomes quite complicated, and it actually gets more complex as we go forward, because we have we sometimes have out of position players coming in to the position, most notably the ubiquitous attacking midfielder Abdel Razik Omer. Sometimes Raouf is part of his name, coming back. And actually, he spends quite a bit of time in the midfield, usually as an attacking midfielder, but we mention him here because he sometimes is in the central midfield as well. So this is a bit of a mouthful because they sometimes use three central midfielders. So we have three likely starters: Wali Eldin Kadir, Abu Agla Abdallah, and then the attacking midfielder Abdel Razik Omer. But we also see two of the players as possible starters, Salah Adel and Amor Tafer. And I should use the past tense there because that is what we thought at the end of part one. But let's talk about it and see if we revise our opinions here. Actually, the candidates were quite stable up until the fall of 2025, when several new players came in to confuse the issue. That's really the case for a lot of positions, honestly. For the 2nd November game, though, I won't go into all of those names because it's just confusing, but they're basically the possible candidates that we mentioned. The 2nd November game, though, returned to the standard formation, and the standard formation is Wali Eldin Kadir and Abu Agla Abdallah playing as defensive midfielders, while attacking midfielder Abdel Razak Omer, also known as Raouf, plays as an attacking midfielder. So that's the standard formation. In the Cup, the Arab Cup, it was Wali Eldin Kadir and Abdel Razak Omer remaining there. But some of the fall 2025 players, Salah Adel and Amar Tafour, returned. So again, kind of causing a bit of confusion there. So we're going to keep the same predictions basically as before, which we're generally a bit confused, to be honest. We are going to put, the only change we're going to make is to move Abu Agla Abdallah from likely down to possible, since he didn't appear in the Arab Cup there. So we have 2 stars then for Wali Eldin Kadir, and actually Abdel Razik Omer is not on our list here. We are going to deal with him as an attacking midfielder because he does play there sometimes. So we'll give Wali Eldin Kadir 2 stars, and we'll give the others 1 star. That's Salah Adel, Abu Agla Abdallah, and Amar Tafour. Now we kind of think it's possible that any of those could start, but we do think Kadir is more likely there. Okay, that is the central midfield. Let's move on and see if we have any new candidates as left and right midfielders. And yeah, I thought we did. We have a new candidate. We had no one on our list for these positions before, but on the preliminary roster there, a player popped up coded as a left midfielder, and lo and behold, he was selected for the final squad. So that is Abdel Samad Manan is his name, Abdel Samad Manan. But since he never got on the field, he has no caps for the national team. He's just 20 years old. We really don't know how he fits into the team. Left midfielder could mean left attacking midfielder, or it could mean kind of a central midfielder there. Anyway, if he gets on the field, we'll see. And he has played all of his club soccer there in Sudan, but has no appearances for the national team there. Okay, that is Abdel Samad Manan. And we also have one candidate to put as a general midfielder. This is usually a player who hasn't played enough for us to know what his position actually is. And I'll deal with it quickly because he just made the preliminary squad. It's 27-year-old Kater Awadala Guma making the preliminary squad, but not the final cut there. Okay, next we move up to attacking midfielders, and we're going to begin on the left side, so left attackers. In fact, we didn't really have many players coded as left attacking midfielders, so we're seeing our main candidates here as players who've come from other positions to play. The first one is Saif Terry. And this is the biggest surprise at all. We had him as a definite candidate, and he was not selected for the squad. He played 12 of their 14 games over the period, so we thought he was a definite. He was subbed in for the other, just one match he wasn't selected for. So a bit of a shock that he wasn't selected. I tried to research why, and it seems to be just because of his age. He's 31 years old, and the manager wanted faster players. I don't really buy that because the faster player that he selected is only 2 years younger, so it doesn't really stand to reason. So I'm a bit blown away by that. But anyway, Saif Terry not making the final squad there. We had, oh, sorry, I'm putting stuff in the wrong place here. Saif Terry there. We had as a likely candidate Abo Isa, and he is 29 years old, but he did make the final squad. So there we go, Abo Isa. And then we do really have a youngster as a possible candidate. So the argument might hold if they selected Musa Ali Hussein here, because he's just 19 years old. But they didn't select him. He was just on the preliminary squad there. Surprisingly, no new candidates over here. Looks like they don't have a lot available to them for left attacking midfielders in Sudan nowadays. So let's talk about the position there. Well, at the end of part one, no, I'll do a little narrative here. Saif Terry and Abo Isa were the main candidates, although both of them dropped off in their starts a little towards the end. Abo Isa actually started fewer games, but in the case of Terry, it was because he was starting more as a forward. So in their absence, various players showed up in the position in September and October, and even, as we've seen, right back Yasser Awad Bashara. And that continued into November. And in the last two games of the Arab Cup, the position didn't even really exist. It was a 4-2-2-2 formation, sometimes called a double six. Anyway, I call it a 4-2-2-2 formation. So if you imagine that, it's kind of two attacking midfielders, but they're a bit more central than the left attacking midfielder position. And so there we saw attacking midfielder Abdel Razak Omer, the ubiquitous guy, the closest thing to this position. And he has played as a left attacking midfielder before. But even with Saif Terry not selected for the final squad, we could name four possible candidates, Abo Isa among them. So we really don't make a prediction here. We're going to do something a little different when we get to forwards, but position by position, we're finding it very hard to make predictions here. That's going to be true on the right side too, and that's where we're going next. In terms of the players on the right side, we have a definite candidate in Al-Jazoli Nu. Al-Jazoli Nu. Al-Jazoli may be pronounced something more like Al-Ghazoli. And of course, the spellings can vary too, but Al-Jazoli Nu was selected for the final squad, the definite candidate. We had no candidates at the likely level, but at the possible level, our first candidate was Yasir Muzmel, and he was selected for the final squad. And then we have Mohammed Adam, not selected even for the preliminary squad, Mohammed Adam. But the third one was selected for the preliminary squad. It's Mazin Fadul, or Madin Fadul Al-Bali. Making the preliminary squad. Also making the preliminary squad are possible but unlikely candidate Yassin Hamed, but not making the final cut. Here we do have two players to add, and both of them made the final squad there. So we will introduce them. The first one is Ammar Yunus, and the second one is Mohammed Atia Assad. So we'll do a quick introduction of these players. Actually, Ammar Yunus is playing in Australia for quite a while, actually, 3 different clubs there. Currently with, well, they're all small clubs here, Avondale in Australia, and actually out on loan to Green Gully in Australia, which I am familiar with, but they're pretty small. He also played in Estonia. I think he grew up in Australia, though, because even before playing for Estonia, he was playing for clubs in Australia there. He was born in Sudan, but I'm guessing he moved at a young age. Anyway, he's new to the squad. He'd never been selected prior to the final squad, being named to the final squad there. And he's 26 years old, Ammar Yunus. The other player, Mohammed Tia Assad, his first and only appearance for the national team was on the bench in September of 2025, although he had played for the B team in the African National Championship in 2025. Tia Assad is 24 years old and plays for one of the big clubs in Sudan, Al Merrikh. There, and yes, that's pretty much it for him. Anyway, both of those players making the final squad, giving us 4 right attackers over here. Let's go to the predictions here. Yassin Mousmel actually did hold the position for a while in 2024, but after that it's been a rotating door of players playing in the position, many of them out of position players, including central midfielders and forwards. Recent games really don't help to clarify, and the fact that they used that 4-2-2-2 formation in the last 2 games of the Arab Cup just complicates things by introducing central midfielders into the fray that much more. So we really could name 6 to 8 players as possible candidates here, but we just land on just an undefinable starter over here. We'd just be picking names out of a hat. But again, we're going to do something when we get to forwards, hopefully make things a bit better. Let's move on to central attackers, though, and we have a definite candidate. Finally, we formally meet Abdel Razik Omer, and I'm going to actually type into the thing, because on several sites I see him just called Raouf there, so he can go by several names. Raouf is actually not even part of his name. I wonder if it's a nickname there, but a couple of websites do have that in his name. He's a definite candidate, and of course he was selected for the final squad. He's going to be pretty much the only player we give 3 stars to as a definite starter. He started 11 of their 14 games over the period. But I'm getting ahead of myself there. All we need to say is that Omer was selected for the final squad. Our next candidate at the seemingly off the squad level was Ahmed Al-Tesh there, and he was not selected even for the preliminary squad. But I do have a couple of sources telling me that he was injured. One of them told me he was injured and replaced. And I'm wondering where he was replaced, because he wasn't even named to the preliminary squad. Perhaps he was replaced on the preliminary squad, but we don't actually have details about any injury there. So all we can really say is that he didn't make the preliminary squad. We have one new candidate to add, just making the preliminary squad, and that is Al Misbah Faisal. Al-Misbah Faisal just making the preliminary squad. So let's talk about this position. Well, they do use a 4-2-3-1 formation. Or a 4-3-3 formation. Both of those formations fairly common. And basically, we've dealt with this position in the midfield because it's Omar, Abdel Razik Omar, usually in the position. But it's odd, it's complicated. I'm trying to simplify things. To be honest, when it is a 4-2-3-1, it's often him in the attacking midfield. But in a 4-3-3 formation, he tends towards the left side. Also, Wali El-Din Kadir may step up and play in this position as well. But basically, we just consider it part of the midfield, and we'll just sit with Abdel Razak Omar as the likely starter if they do use this position. All right, that's it for central attackers. We move up to the forward line. We have no candidates coded as secondary strikers, so we'll go straight to forwards. Here too, no definite candidates. But at the possible level, at the likely level, we have Muhammad Abdel Rahman, and he is selected for the final squad. And we also have Mohamed Aissa. This is the brother of Abo Aissa, who we met earlier. He's also at the likely level and was selected for the final squad. We had a possible candidate in John Mano, and he also made the cut there. Our possible but unlikely candidate, Al-Samani Al-Sawi, just making the preliminary squad there. And then Sheriff Eldin Shiboob was seemingly off the squad, but at least made the preliminary squad there. Here we have two new candidates. The first one, Elias Ahmed, who may be called Elias Mohammed, just making the preliminary squad. And then the second one, Maz Al-Bakak, sometimes known as Maz Coco, also just making the preliminary squad there. So we have our three forwards here, Muhammad Abdel Rahman, Mohamed Aissa, and John Mano. And let's talk about the position here. Well, at the end of part one, we were able to put a few names here. We thought Muhammad Abdel Rahman, and then Saif Terry seemed the next most likely, and then Mohamed Aissa there. But when we look at the November games, we see that possible candidate John Mano joined the fray as a starter in November, and he and Muhammad Abdel Rahman shared duties in the Arab Cup, sometimes alternating or sometimes playing as a pair. That might suggest that they will be starters in the African Cup. But again, we have our doubts because some players, in this case, most notably the Aissa brothers, were not on the Arab Cup squad, but they were selected for the African Cup. So we think that they may well be used. So between that and the players shifting position, we're a bit reluctant to nominate starters at the position level, but we have come up with a solution of nominating players we expect to see on the field rather than which players will fill which position. So we're going to go back to the left attacking midfielders and just code players in terms of their likelihood or our predictions of their likelihood of being on the field, regardless of where we might find them on the field. So again, shockingly, our definite left attacking midfielder, Saif Terry, not selected, so no stars that we can give him. We give Abo Aissa 2 stars. We think he's a likely candidate to get a start. That's all then on the left attackers. On the right side, we think Al-Jazoli Nu is a possible starter, so just one start for him. 1 star, I should say. Also 1 star for Yazi Musmil. We think he's a possible starter. We think the most likely candidate is the central attacker, Abdel Razik Omar, or Abdel Razik Raouf, however they're going to call him in the cup. He's the only player we're going to give 3 stars to because we think he'll be a definite starter. And then moving on to the forwards, we think Abdel Rahman Mohamed is a likely starter, and Mohamed Isa just a possible starter, and John Mano now a possible starter as well. So that's where we land on those things. The only other definite we would have had is Saif Terry, which is why we're so surprised that he was not selected. Nevertheless, we move into section 3 here. Our business is done in section 2, so let's move on to section 3. And here we want to welcome listeners to the short version of the mediacast. We begin with our spotlight review. That's a race through the squad, basically reviewing what we've done in parts 1 and 2. Parts 1, we introduced candidates and put them according to their likelihood of making the squad. And in part 2, we said which ones did make the squad and tried to predict who the starters will be, as difficult as that was. Okay, so let's go to the top of our list and take a look. We begin with the manager, Ghanaian manager. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of names there. James Kwesi Appiah got them to this cup. We'll consider him a successful selection here because he has not been fired or anything. So he will lead them through the cup. And then we go to goalkeepers. We had none of the definite or likely level, but at the possible level, we had 5 candidates. The first one, Monjed El Neil, was selected for the final squad, and the second one, Mohamed Abuja, also selected. The third one, Mohamed Mustafa, just making the preliminary squad, even though he was the starter for the first part of the period that we looked at. The fourth candidate, Ali Abu Eshrin, made the squad, and the fifth one, Abdallah Adam, not making the final cut there, just on the preliminary squad. So we're not going to talk about players below the possible level unless they actually made the squad. But if you are watching the YouTube version of this, you can see other names on the screen. So there we have it. In terms of starters, we think it's an even guess between Monjed El Neil and Mohamed Abuja. We think both of those are possible starters, but we can't pick a favorite between them, basically. Let's go to central defenders. Again, no definite candidates, but 3 at the likely level here. Mohamed Ehring, who was selected for the squad. Mustafa Karshoum, also selected. However, Abdul Rahman Kuku, not selected, so a bit of a surprise there. He just made the preliminary squad. Next, we had 4 possible candidates. I'll do the ones who made it first. So Al-Tayeb Abakar was selected for the squad, and so was Muhammad Kesra. Both of those selected. However, the other 2, Imad Al-Sini and Mohamed Musa, they just made the preliminary squad there. In terms of starters, we think Mohamed Ehring and Mustafa Karshoum are likely candidates. And the possible candidate, Al-Tayeb Abakar, we think is a possible starter. Over to left backs here, we had a definite candidate in Captain Baki Kamas, who was selected for the squad. And then we had a likely candidate, Ahmed Tabanja, also selected for the squad. And here, one of the new candidates on the preliminary roster, Mazin Mohammedin, also selected for the squad. We hadn't put him on the list in part one because he hadn't played in 2024 or 2025, but he is an experienced player, Mazin Mohammadin, and they called him back in here. In terms of starters, we give just possible, we're not dead sure, between Bakit Kamis and Ahmed Tabanja. So we give each of them 1 star as possible starters, but we do slightly favour Bakit Kamis there. Moving over to right backs, again, no definite candidates, but 2 candidates at the likely level, Awad Zaid and Yasser Awad Boshara. And both of those made the final cut, made the final squad there. However, our possible candidate, Ramadan Ajeb, not selected for the final squad, just the preliminary squad for him. We also have a new candidate in Shedi Barglan. Shedi Barglan was selected for the final squad. In terms of starters over here, just like on the left side, we just have the 2 players as possible starters. We're not sure between them. So Awad Zaid and Yasser Awad Boshara, both of those possible starters. And don't be shocked if you see Yasser Awad Boshara, the right back, starting as a left attacking midfielder. That's one of the things that made it a little bit difficult for Sudan is the players move around quite a bit. Let's move on to the midfield and defensive midfielders. Well, we're going to do defensive and central at the same time here. So for coded as defensive midfielders, we have a likely candidate in Salah Adel, who made the final squad. 3 possible candidates here, Abouagla Abdallah. Let me just try that again. Abouagla Abdallah. Oh, good. He was selected, so was Amar Tayfor. But our 3rd possible candidate, Mohammed Al Rashid, not selected for the final squad, just the preliminary squad there. And among central midfielders, we actually only had the 1 name at the likely level. It's Wali Eldin Kadir, and he was selected for the final squad. Okay, let's talk about starters here. The only one we think is a likely starter here is Wali Eldin Kadir. So we give him 2 stars as a likely starter. The others we think are all possible. Salah Adel, Abouagla Abdallah, and Amar Tayfor, we give 1 star as possible starters there. Upfield we go. Well, we're going to pause a little bit for left midfielders here because we had a player named to the final squad coded as a left midfielder. But to be honest, he hasn't played any games, so we're not really sure where he fits in to the squad. Nevertheless, he was selected. It's Abdel Samad Manan making the final squad there. He'll probably be on the bench, I would imagine. Upfield we go to the left attacking midfield. And here we have the biggest surprise of all, our definite candidate, Saif Terry, not selected for the final squad, just making the preliminary squad there. Our likely candidate, Abu Aissa, was selected, and our possible but unlikely candidate, Musa Ali Hussein, just making the preliminary squad there. So Abu Aissa, the only one they have here, and we consider him a likely candidate to start on the field. But we're not predicting positions here for Sudan because players move around too much. So we're just going to say players in terms of their likelihood of starting somewhere on the field. So Abu Aissa, we think likely to start. Moving over to right attackers, we had a definite candidate in Al Jazoli Nu. Al Jazoli Nu was selected for the final squad. We also had 3 possible candidates, but only the first of them was selected. That's Yasir Musmel. The second one, Mohammed Adam, not even making the preliminary squad there. And the third one, Mazin Fadul Al-Bali, just making the preliminary squad. However, we do have 2 new candidates making the cut here, and that is Ammar Yunus and Mohamed Tia Assad. Both of those selected for the final squad. In terms of starting on the field, we think Al Ghazoli Nu is a possible starter. And same with Yasir Muzmel, we give him just a possible chance of being a starter here. For central attackers, we have Abdel Razik Omer, and sometimes we see Raouf as part of his name, or he may just be called Raouf. He's pretty ubiquitous, plays central defense, left attacking midfield, central attacker, even as a forward sometimes. Abdel Razik Omer, he's the only player that we consider a definite starter here. And he's the only player coded as a central attacker that we need to tell you about. Moving on to forwards then. We have none at the definite level, but we had two at the likely level. Mohamed Abdelrahman, who was selected, and then Mohamed Aissa, brother of Abo Aissa, who we just met. Both of those selected for the final squad. And so was our possible candidate, John Mano, selected for the final squad. And in terms of starters, we think Mohamed Abdelrahman is a likely starter, while Mohamed Aissa and John Mano we just give possible. We see as possible starters. All right, that brings us to the end of our spotlight review. Let's take a look at some of what we see here. So we begin with notable non-selections. We have two of those. The first one, central defender Abdelrahman Kuku. We had considered him a likely candidate. Not selected largely because he was without a club. We probably should have noticed that in part one and put him at the possible level, because that's always a bit of a death knell for players there. The second one, Saif Terry, though, a real surprise. We don't even buy the reason that we found, I think in an article, that he was selected largely because of his age and they wanted younger, faster players. Because, well, we won't get into it. But anyway, we had him as a definite candidate. He started 12 of their 14 games over the period, sometimes as a left attacker, sometimes as a forward. But lo and behold, not selected for the final squad here. Unexpected inclusions. We actually don't have any of those, but we do have a few new players. Well, we could view the first of those new players, Mazin Mohammedine, as an unexpected inclusion because he does have some experience with the squad. We just didn't have him in part one because he hasn't played over the last 2 years there. But he was a starter in the 2021 African Cup and brought back in here. So left back, Mazin Mohammedine making the final cut here, or really brought back in from the cold because he had last appeared in March of 2023. Next, we have right back Shedi Barglan, Netherlands-born player there, 23 years old, and making the final squad. Again, we had no likelihood on him because he wasn't part of part one. We didn't know of him in part one there. Next, we have a right attacking midfielder, two of them actually. The first one, Ammar Yunus, and the other one, Mohamed Tia Assad. I shouldn't be going into detail on them. That's going off topic. That's it. Those are the surprises and the new players. Let's take a look at the injury situation at the end of part one. Actually, we had no injury concerns there. And then at the end of part two, no new injuries. So very lucky for Sudan there. They come in with a clean bill of health. And we'll finish with some closing thoughts here. So we thought that the fact that they were using many of the same players in the Arab Cup would actually help us to determine who starters are. In the end, it really just kind of confused us, partly because we don't know if these are the same starters that will be started in the African Cup, or whether it's kind of a B team and they're kind of using the secondary players in the Arab Cup and intend to use a different different set of players in the African Cup, we're really not sure. We also found it a bit difficult for Sudan, and you may too, because the names are always changing. Some of the players go by two names, two very different names, sometimes even three, and also the positions keep changing, so it's kind of hard to get a handle on their players. But just like in 2021, they made a sweeping change of the squad just before going into the tournament. It wasn't quite as bad this time, but they did use or make a lot of changes in their October or their September and October games that make it a bit difficult for us to kind of guess who are going to be starters, but maybe make it a bit difficult for them to kind of learn how to play with each other, because it's if they do use those kind of new players, they won't be that familiar with each other, although playing in the Arab Cup may have helped if they did indeed use those starters in the African Cup. Okay, well that brings us to the end of our look at Sudan. We would like to thank Pixabay and Cold Fingers for the wonderful music used in this mediacast. The title of the piece is Eid Mubarak.